Good evening, Kenny. We're just going to wait. I'm just going to wait to let everybody log in and join us, and then we'll get started. If you can hear me loud and clear, it'd be great if you could give us a wave or a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. So we're just waiting everybody to tune in. But thank you for coming to join us. We'll just give it another minute or so, try and maximise our audience. But really looking forward to speaking to you all tonight. Hello from Farnborough, Hampshire. Hello there. Thank you as well for all your questions that you've sent in. Some really good questions, and looking forward to answering them. Perfect. Thank you, Raymond. Appreciate that. So sound is good. Hopefully everybody else can hear me too. So we'll just give it another minute or so, and then we'll get started. I think we've still got a few people logging on. Hello from Lanark. Hello there. Hello, Isaac. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, Kenny. I hope you're all well. Hope you're all making the most of lockdown. Being as productive as possible. Hello, Karen in Camberley. Hello, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. Much appreciated. We've got Jane Austin on as well. Hello, Ian in Camberley. Hello, Julie. Thank you for joining us. Brilliant. Lots of people tuning in, which is great stuff. So, Kenny, you know how many we're expecting, Kenny. So if you can... Hi, James in Aldershot. If you can give me the thumbs up, Kenny, when you want me to crack on, so to speak, that'd be awesome. But I'm happy to wait as long as you need. I'm conscious that at 8 o'clock as well, we're going to do our cheer, our round of applause for the great people on the front line who do an amazing job in these challenging, adverse times. Hello, Kai, Abigail. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Luca. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Hopefully we can make tonight's parade an interesting one, and we'll save some times for questions as well at the end. Thanks, Kenny. Good evening, Colonel Neil, who will tell me off for calling him Colonel on a Facebook Live. But great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Jacob. Okay, so good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, have never met me, my name is Jordan Wylie. I am very honoured to be one of the UK's national ambassadors for the Army Cadets. It is a real privilege, it's a great honour, and it's something that I genuinely take great pride in. I'm very fortunate to wear lots of different caps in my life, but I can promise you all, hand on heart, that my proudest achievement and honour is to be one of the national ambassadors. It really does mean a lot to me, and I invest a lot of my time in trying to help others learn, develop, grow, and hopefully I can inspire some people. I'm really grateful that you've invited me from 5 Scots Guards Lanark tonight, and we've got some great questions that have been sent in from lots of different people. But I'd firstly just like to do a shout out and a thank you to Lieutenant Kenny Bogue, Sergeant Green and Sergeant Graham, because actually the 3 people who are your leaders at this cadet unit, who have put an incredible amount of effort into making sure these sort of activities take place. And, you know, they take organisation, they take planning and admin, and without those sorts of people, you know, these things can't happen. So huge respect to all the leadership team up at 5 Scots there. Really, really great work. And actually it's a testament to your detachment and company, especially that people are there putting in the effort and using this time productively, because it's really important. So great work. I guess let's get started then. I'm just going to be reading and writing some notes as we're going along. But the first question, so the idea tonight, is it's a live Q&A. I've been sent some questions earlier today that you've sent in, and I've got them in front of me. So I'm just going to go through the questions and answer them to the best of my ability. And if you've got anything else, we'll save the last 10-15 minutes that you can write a question at the bottom, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. We're going to stop for a break at 8 o'clock. We're going to do our applause for the great people on the front line who are doing an incredible job during this coronavirus period. And then we're going to come back for the 10-15 minutes of questions. I've got a podcast to do with the BBC at 8:30, so I've got to be finished by then. So the first question then is from Corporal Scott. The question he's asked, what do you armoured warfare, and do you mean specific vehicles, and what was it like to work with them? So for those of you who aren't familiar with armoured warfare, essentially what we mean is, we call it armoured warfare. You might hear it called tank warfare or mechanised warfare, but essentially we're talking about using armoured fighting vehicles in modern day combat. For me, I was in a regiment called the King's Royal Hussars. The King's Royal Hussars are a cavalry regiment, and we use the Challenger 2 main battle tank, which is the British Army's firepower, if you like, on the front line. We're a combat arms unit. I did all the different positions within the tank. So you start, if you join a tank regiment or a cavalry regiment, you would start as a driver normally. And a driver is really interesting actually, because the driver is in a Challenger 2 tank, you have two parts to a tank. You have what we call the hull, which is the sort of the bottom half of the tank, and then you have the turret, which is the bit that spins around with the gun attached to it. And it's really cool, because even though you're the new boy or the new girl now, because we accept females and males in the Armoured Corps as of 12 months ago, you actually get the comfiest seat in the house. So in the tank, you actually drive a tank lying down unless you head up, and you sit right back in your tank, and you look through a periscope, which is incredible, really. And so you have six forward gears, you have two reverse, and you use sticks. So there's no steering wheel. We have a left stick and a right stick, and you're responsible for obviously driving the vehicle wherever the commander directs you to. But the only problem is when you're the driver, is of course you're responsible for everybody's comfort within the tank. So if you get it wrong, one of the challenging things is that your head sits next to the gunner's feet. So if you hit a bump, you normally end up with a foot in the back of your head. But apart from that, it's the best seat in the house. If you do well as a driver, then hopefully you'll get moved on to be a gunner. And a gunner is a really, really cool job, because that means you're the person responsible for pulling the trigger. And if any of you have ever played on a PlayStation or an iPad or an Xbox, which I've never been a computer man, but if you play on an Xbox or a PlayStation, what's really interesting about the Challenger 2 Gunner's Control Panel or pad is it's exactly the same as an Xbox or PlayStation. It has the same figures, it has the same trigger switch on the back. So what we normally find in the Armoured Corps when I was in, and certainly over the last decade, is that the really young people who have grown up in this, what we call the PlayStation generation, people who have been online for the last decade or two, these normally are the best gunners. So it's quite interesting, because I was never a computer person, and I wasn't the best gunner at the tank. I was good at shooting rifles, but not so much on the tank, because it relies on hand-eye coordination. You have to laser the target before you fire at it, and it's really interesting. And then if you do well as a gunner, you go to be an operator. That's the third member of the crew. So an operator in the tank, he's responsible for all the radio communications. He's also known as the loader. So he has to load the 120 millimeter rounds into the chamber for the gunner to fire. And interesting fact about the operator and gunner, the operator loader as well. He's also the person for making all the dinner, the meals, the cups of tea. He's somebody, or she's somebody, that you need to keep on side at all times, because they're a really important member of the crew for morale, especially. And then if you do a great job at all three of those positions, you might become the commander of the tank, which was voted in FHM and Nuts magazine as the second sexiest job in the world. You'd be pleased to know. Only second to a fighter jet pilot, but above a fireman. So there you go. So hopefully that answers your question and gives you a bit about life on a tank. There's a great film called Fury with Brad Pitt, and I thought that was an excellent representation as life in a tank crew. I thought it epitomised the morale, the ups and downs, the banter, the camaraderie, and it is a real good reflection of armoured warfare, if you like. Of course, there's the Hollywood factor, and it's great entertainment, but it is a real good reflection if you've never seen it. Fury with Brad Pitt. So, next question. So the next question I've got here is Cadet Scott asks, what did you feel is the achievement you are most proud of, and why did you decide to join the army? Well, I think my greatest achievement for me, I will always say, is to be a dad. I always say that my daughter is my greatest achievement. I've been very lucky. Maybe lucky is the wrong word, but I've been very fortunate, certainly, to meet lots of incredible people around the world. I've achieved a few some world firsts. I've been awarded lots of things, but actually, it's to be a father, to be a dad, and to try and inspire my daughter and young people is really what my greatest achievement is. I think if you look at, I've played football for the Army for 10 years. I've represented the Army at different sports. I've done lots of things. As I said, I've done some world firsts with my rowing. I've travelled the world as an adventurer and been very fortunate in many respects. But I think it's very easy to get sidetracked and look at things from a sort of an external perspective, when actually, for me, real success and achievement these days is internal. It's about what I can do, what I can give, and how can I help others and inspire, and that's really important. And I think I often say there's a big difference between success and fulfillment. I think as you grow older, when I was young, I used to chase things what I thought was success. If I'm honest, I used to think that things like money, positions, social media followers, likes, retweets, I used to think that would mean something, but actually it really doesn't. What matters is how much of an impact you can have on other people's lives for the positive, for the better, and that to me is if you can. And that's what I love about the Army cadets as well, because you're all inspiring each other. Lots of the people like yourselves that I meet, you inspire me. When I come to detachments, I go away so inspired, and I think that is the true currency of life. It really is. How much I measure myself now by how can I help and impact other people's lives, and that's really important. I think. Why did you decide to join the Army? Well, again, I'll be very honest about this. When I was young and I was a teenager, if I'm being super honest, I wasn't the best at school, and that's not something that I'm proud of at all. I left school with no qualifications. I'm pleased to say now that I went back to do my education and I hold a bachelor's and a master's degree. But when I left school at 16, I was a tough teenager. I don't mean tough as in fighting tough. I mean I was tough for my parents, for my teachers, because I didn't apply myself at school. And actually, it was only after I left school that I realised that education is really important, and it's something that I'm really passionate about these days. It's something I invest a lot of time in myself to try and stay current, to continue learning. So when I left school at 16 with nothing, and all my friends were going to university, it wasn't an option for me. It simply wasn't an option because I didn't have any qualifications, which I'm really embarrassed about now to say that. Actually, it was my father was a Royal Marine, and he said, well, maybe have a look at maybe the services. And I loved adventure, I love sport, and I love travelling. So actually, it was a nice fit. But unfortunately, because I didn't have any qualifications, even when you join the regular army, the qualifications you have as a 16, 17-year-old, they will sort of allow you to access certain options and job opportunities within the army. So, I couldn't go and be an engineer. I couldn't go into military intelligence, really, because I didn't have any qualifications. So the only options were the infantry or the armoured corps, which are the two combat arms of the British Army. And I have no regrets about that, because I met the most incredible people. And I worked with the King's Royal Hussars for 10 years. And, I'm still very much affiliated to the regiment as a trustee and a volunteer in the regimental museum and things. But yeah, I think hopefully that answers that question. So the next question this is a really good question from Cadet Patterson. It's, how has your military training helped you cope during the coronavirus pandemic? And I think that's a great question, because I think we've all probably struggled for a good day and a bad day at the moment. We've been in lockdown for, I don't know, it seems like a lifetime at the moment. But certainly I've been in my house for the last 2 weeks. You may be aware, but I'm supposed to be at the North Pole right now. I'm supposed to be on an expedition at the North Pole on top of the world. And all my dreams were shattered of my first ever visit to the North Pole because of the coronavirus. But I've respected, the rules, the regulation, the guidance from the government, and I've been locked down in my home and only go out when I'm if I really, really need to, which is not that often, only to get food from shopping once a week maybe. So I think for me, I'm going to refer back to the core values, actually, because it's we are, as the Army Cadet Force, as Army Cadets, whether we are volunteers, whether we are cadets, whether we're adult instructors, permanent staff, wherever you fit in this incredible organisation, the best organisation in the world, in fact, we are looked at as leaders. We are looked at as people who the rest of the nation looks to be role models. And I think that's really important, maintaining our discipline, maintaining our respect, integrity, loyalty, selfless commitment and courage. And I would say that things like discipline, discipline is something that's a really important value right now, because if you're not disciplined, if you don't get up and you get into that routine, you can quickly go downhill, rapidly, because it is really challenging when you're at home and you're used to being at work or school or college or whatever it might be. I also think selfless commitment is important, because we're seeing a lot of young people. I watch the news, or when I've been to the shop once a week, I see a lot of young people still out and about in groups, ignoring the government advice. We talk about selfless commitment and respect for others. We're making the NHS's job a lot harder if we don't apply our core values, and we're actually compromising and risking other people's lives as a result of not applying our core values during the coronavirus pandemic. So all those core values, they really, really need to be applied now more than ever before, especially when it comes to respecting what advice we've been given from Mr. Johnson and the government. Keeping yourself fit and healthy, having the discipline to get up in the morning, go and do a workout, even if it's just, Joe Wicks at 9 o'clock every morning, like my daughter does, or it's in the garden doing some circuits. Whatever it is, have the discipline to keep yourself fit and healthy. You're a member of Army Cadets, and you should be doing those things. But I think that's a really good question, and I'm keen to learn about other people's experiences there. So the next question is from Cadet Jorgensen, and it said, did you become an adventurer, or have you always been one? And what inspired you to do that? Well, I'm going to say that actually people are often surprised when I say, being an adventurer isn't something that you spend years and years learning to do. For me, and I say this honestly, adventure and being an adventurer is just a simple case of mindset. I think we've all got the spirit of adventure in us. Certainly you guys and girls, because you're in the Army Cadet Force, which embraces the spirit of adventure. But I think adventure for me is all about mindset. It's about everything you do, everywhere you go, embracing that spirit of adventure, looking to meet new people, looking to travel, looking to take on new experiences, looking to overcome challenges and adversity. So for me, everyone can be an adventurer just by simply applying the adventurer mindset, and what the great thing is it means that you often throw yourselves into opportunities and situations, and you get to meet incredible people. You get to travel the world, and as you grow older and you mature and you get better qualifications and experiences, you can become an expedition leader, and then you can arrange and set up and plan expeditions for other people, which is really exciting, and actually probably one of the most rewarding things you can do, to go and lead an expedition and watch it all come together. Because going on an expedition or an adventure, you learn so much about yourself. And I think actually for young people, an expedition or an adventure is one of the best environments for learning, because it allows you to build confidence, it allows you to build resilience, it allows you to get things wrong through trial and error, and it allows you to learn from any mistakes that you might make. An adventure for me, I would say adventure, travel, meeting people are the best forms of education in the world, because it's all practical based, and it's all real life skills and experiences that you can always apply to different situations. So hopefully that answers your question there. So we've got some more. The next question is from Lance Corporal Adam. Lance Corporal Adam, thank you for your question. If you have always been, what was your hardest adventure? So Lance Corporal Adam is asking, what has been my hardest adventure? I've had lots of tough adventures, lots of difficult expeditions, and many times where I thought, God, I'm on the verge of giving up now. But we keep pushing forward. I think a lot of resilience is in the mind. It's about keeping the mind in control of the body. The body will give up very easily, and it's up to the mind to make sure you keep going and keep pushing forward. The moment you let the body control the mind, it can often end quite quickly. So it's important that the mind is always controlling the body, because the body will give up as soon as you get tired. So the mind has to be the key. But I would say for me, my hardest adventure, certainly my most recent adventure was, well, the toughest recent one was probably in the Rowing Dangerously project. So in 2019, I became the first person in the world to row across the most dangerous strait of water in the world. It is an area called the Bab el Mandab Straits between Yemen and the Horn of Africa. It's an area that's been littered by piracy for the last decade. It's got more smuggling of arms, people and narcotics than anywhere else in the world on these waters. It's full of venomous marine life and sharks. So it's lots of reasons why you wouldn't want to row across it. But I spent a lot of time out there in that region as working in the security sector, and I felt that it was something that I could do. I had the network, I had the logistics, the support in place should something go wrong, and I thought it was worth a stab at, so to speak. And it was a lot tougher than I thought it would be. Certainly on my way back across from Yemen, the tides, the current, the wind was against me and was pushing me up the Red Sea. And we were losing light at the very same time, which made it really, really challenging. But again, it's like anything in life. If you've got a goal, I always find the best thing to do, whether it's rowing an ocean or it's running a marathon, you just break the goal down into bite-sized chunks and don't think too far ahead to the finish. Just think about maybe the next 5k or the next nautical mile or whatever it might be. You just, with any goal that you are trying to achieve in life, you have to break it down into small bite-sized chunks, because then it becomes more realistic, it becomes achievable, and again, psychologically, it becomes a lot more obtainable. And that's how I work. Sometimes goals can seem like they're a million miles away, and often they are, which is why you need to break them down. But great question. Thank you, Lance Corporal Adam. Next question is from Cadet Ethan Hannah. What was it like taking part in Channel 4's Hunted? What great question. What was it like? Well, it was a great experience and still is a great experience. We were just about to start filming Series 6 next month, but unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, all filming has obviously been cancelled. So I am one of the hunters on the show, if you've not seen the show before, and my job is to chase fugitives around the UK for 30 days and try and stop them from getting to day 30 extraction point where they would win £100,000. I'm very lucky to work with some incredible professional people from all walks of life. People who've been in MI5, MI6, UK Special Forces, the Met Police, private detectives, surveillance experts, you name it. There's such a whole host of plethora of experience in there, and I learned so much from the people on the show. And what's really interesting is that the UK as a country is the most surveillanced country in the world for the size of it. We have more cameras than anywhere else for the size of our country. So literally everything you're doing in this country is being watched, whether it's from a CCTV camera at the end of your street, whether it's through an ATM machine when you're taking money out, whether it's online through social media, through keywords, or whether it's on a motorway junction with an ANPR camera picking up your number plate. You literally can't move in this country without being seen. It's really difficult. A lot of people ask me, is the show fixed? Is the show, is it scripted in any way? And I can assure you, it is not scripted in any way. What you see happens. Sometimes it is very well edited, I would say that, but it's never scripted. We are always frustrated. We're always up against it. Really, really tough. We got a question from Colonel Neil Jerd just while we're live, actually, which is a great question. It says, how can people help raise money for our project at the school? So I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight into that. So my mission for the last 18 months has been to build a school on the Horn of Africa in a little country called Djibouti. A lot of people have not heard of Djibouti. It's one of the smallest countries in Africa, and it sits next to Somalia, on the Ethiopian border, surrounded by Somalia, Eritrea and Ethiopia. And when I visited this country, I visited this country many times over the years, nearly 10 times in the last 12 months. But about 13 months ago when I visited there, I met lots of children there, and the children who was in Djibouti, they've all been displaced by the war and conflict in Yemen and Somalia. And I met one little boy, and this little boy, Ishmael, he told me that his dream was to go to school one day. And Ishmael had lost his mum and dad in the war. He had no family at all except for a sister who was a couple of years old, 2 years old. She was still a baby. And when I got wind of this story and I spoke to Ishmael, I was sort of, really moved and taken back by the story. And it made me realise how fortunate I was to be able to go to school. And it made me really disappointed in myself that I'd never took those opportunities when I was at school. Because what you learn when you travel to very remote and complex, hostile regions of the world is you realise how fortunate you are to come back to our nice warm homes, 3 meals a day, roof over our head, and we don't really have that much to worry about, most of us, if we break it down into the extremities. And when you go to places like the Horn of Africa, and we think we've got it bad now with coronavirus, and we have, and some people have got it really bad, but children are dying every day, and they have been dying every day for the last 5 years in Yemen. Lots more children than are being killed by coronavirus, and this is normal life for those people. It's not a short period of a month or two where hopefully it will blow over. This is every day. Bombs, bullets, terrorism. I was in Syria 18 months ago, and I was visiting an orphanage there, and a rocket went off in the background, and me being ex-military dived on the floor and hit the deck. And none of the children stopped their football match. And I just thought, wow, that is incredible. And when I spoke to the director of the orphanage, I said, why were they not bothered that a rocket or a mortar had just gone off in the background? He said, no, because that's all they ever know. To them, it's like the sun or the moon. He said, it's normal. It's what's in the sky, because they've only ever grown up in conflict and war, which for me just shows how much we have to be grateful for the situation we find ourselves in sometimes. So I said I wanted to build a school in Djibouti, so I've been trying to raise 350,000 to build a school. I've raised half that money, so I still need to raise about another 170,000, 160,000. So all the fundraising that you see me doing online is to try and finish that school and hopefully inspire hope through education. But if you can help in any way, there's my plug for my charity projects. I'm always looking for people to do fundraising so we can get that school built. And what I can promise you is that every pound that I raise or we raise goes directly to that school. I take no salary, neither does any of the other people on the project. All the money goes straight to that project. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes before we take a quick break. Take a quick break for the applause outside. So I'll just tell another. Let me just look for a short question. Lots of questions here. In fact, we'll take this one from, I don't know. Apologies on rank and position, but I've got Burnett. I've got Burnett on my paper here. So apologies whether you're Colonel Burnett or Private Burnett. While you were managing the maritime situation against the Somali pirates, what were the principles that what were the principles you used to guide your decision making? So for those of you who don't know, I found myself in a position about a decade ago where armed pirates were on board a ship I was protecting, and basically I was in charge of security. I didn't have any weapons, and I had to make some serious decisions because we were in lockdown on this ship at the bottom in what we call a citadel or a safe room. And I had to make some decisions to get us out of that ship and to call in a rescue. And what I would say, again, going back to what I'd learned in the military, it was about core values, because I made the decision. I took the courage to make that decision, as I was a very young leader. I was the youngest person on the ship, although I was the team leader. And I had the courage to make decisions. I had the courage and confidence in my ability to make those decisions. I also had a responsibility for everyone in my team. So we look at selfless commitment. I put myself in great danger to make sure that we all went home safe that day. Again, respect for others. I was in a mixed nationality crew. So again, all those values, integrity. I told the captain that we may not make it home. I was very honest with him. I didn't want to scare him or panic him, but I had the integrity to say that we're in a hostile situation, Captain. Please trust my intuition. Please trust my experience. And he did. He respected me enough to know that I would hopefully get us out of that situation. But I'm assuming you've read the book because you've asked that question. This is the book. If you've not seen it, this was my book, or one of my books. You can read all about my experiences of fighting pirates on the front line. And you can probably see actually in the background, just up there, there's a picture there which is taken from the film Captain Phillips, which was a film that I worked on with Tom Hanks. It was a Hollywood film, and again, if you want an insight into piracy or life at sea in the security sector, you can read the book, available in all good bookshops, or you can also check out the film Captain Phillips. I'm going to take a 2-minute break now, because I've been asked by, and as we should do as well, because we're going to give our round of applause. So I'm just going to leave it on live. If we go and do our applause for the awesome workers on the front line, and then we'll come back in 2 minutes, that would be awesome. Cheers, guys. Okay, so I'm back in. If Kenny, if you could give me a thumbs up if you're happy for me to continue, just make sure we've got everyone back. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go through a couple more of the questions, and then I'll take some. Thank you, Kenny. I'm going to take some more questions in a second, but let me just finish a couple of these, what I've still got. So I have one here from Cadet Goff, which says, why did you go on Hunted, and how did you get to be a hunter on Hunted? Which again is a good question, and it's quite an interesting backstory how I ended up being one of the hunters. Although I joined the Royal Armoured Corps, a tank regiment or a cavalry regiment, one of the great things about it is you get to diversify into different roles. And one of the things I did is I spent about 7 years out of my 10 in what's called a reconnaissance troop. So we specialised in close reconnaissance, so observing the enemy, gathering information and intelligence, acquiring targets and things like that. And it was a really cool job. One of the highlights of my career working in reconnaissance and surveillance. But when I did 3 operational tours overseas, and 2 of them was in Iraq. I went to Iraq in 2005 on Optelic 6 and 2007 on Optelic 10. But my role on both of those tours was working as part of a battle group intelligence cell. I was based the first time in a place called Al Amara in the Maysan province, and the second time I was in Basra on the second tour. And one of the courses that I went on both tours was called the Tactical Questioners course. So I did lots of things. We looked at things like interrogation, how you extract information from people using, ethical questioning techniques in a strategic, tactical manner. And not many people go on to complete that course. And randomly out of nowhere, about 7 years later after I'd left the army, I got a phone call from, in fact, I tell a lie, I go back a bit further. When I'd finished my time doing piracy, I did a documentary with a channel in America called HBO, and we did a documentary called The Pirate Hunter, and I took an American film crew out to the Horn of Africa, and we looked at how private maritime security operations were being run, and we met some sort of rehabilitated pirate commanders, and we went and looked at pirate tactics and things like that, and how we would find them and spot them. And when I finished filming this show and it was released in the US, I got a phone call from Channel 4 saying, Jordan, we've watched the show The Pirate Hunter that you was in. How about you come and be involved in a show called Hunted? So instead of being a pirate hunter, you can be a fugitive hunter. And of course I wasn't a pirate hunter, I was just an armed security person. But obviously what you learn about TV media and the news is they like to jazz things up, so it sells programs and more people watch it. But I certainly wasn't a pirate hunter. My job was to protect ships, not to hunt pirates. And anyway, I got this phone call and it said, right, you've been a pirate hunter. We want you to be a fugitive hunter, and we've also seen you've got some background in intelligence, so we think you'd be a good fit. So I had to go for the interview in London, and they put a panel of 4 people in front of me, and they asked me to extract information. They give me a brief before I went in. It was like role play, and I had to do tactical questioning, interrogation sort of techniques, and I got on really well, and that was it. And now we're on series 6, and still with 2 more series on my contract to film. So really interesting and great fun. It's not always what you see on the TV. Anyone who's worked in the regular army, regular military, or worked in the law enforcement agencies, I can promise you that a lot of surveillance is not driving around rapidly in Volvos, or doing sneaky beaky type things. A lot of it is just sitting around watching and waiting, and sheer boredom, which you're probably experiencing a lot of at the moment. So what you've got to remember when you're watching the TV program Hunted is that it's 30 days of 24 hours a day filming, and you only see 6 1-hour episodes, which is the fun bit. But it's not as exciting filming it as you think it might be when you watch the program. So, in fact, let's take some questions from the screen. Then we've got another sort of 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, so Lieutenant Bo, Kenny's asked me a question here. What's your secret to a happy and successful life? That's a great question. And I'm going to separate both of them actually, because we talk about happiness and you talk about success, and they don't always come hand in hand, I'm going to say. And it's something certainly for the younger people watching that you will learn as you get older. What does success look like? Well, it's a good question, because success looks like so many different things to different people. Some people, it might be wealth, it might be money. For me, as I've got older, I've actually learned that it's to be a happy family. It's about having my and being in good shape. It's about trying to have an impact on other people's lives. For me, that is what happy and success is today. But if you'd have asked me that 10 years ago, when I was a lot younger, I'd have wanted to live in a big house, drive the best car, and do all the things that I thought were really important. And I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of people. I've been very fortunate in 10 years ago, I had some great jobs. I earned a lot of money. But I can promise you that earning lots of money doesn't make you happy at all. It brings a lot of stress with it. In fact, it does allow you to make different decisions and do different things in your spare time. But normally when you earn good money, it comes with a lot of pressure. Or you take significant risks. But for me, what does happiness look like? It's about having an impact on other people's lives, trying to do my best to inspire, to be a good dad, to be the best dad I can be to my daughter, and to help people and help grow and develop people where I can. I think that's what success and happiness is to me. And to use the spirit of adventure to keep exploring the world. There's so many parts of our incredible planet that are still unexplored. So that's really important to me. So I hope that answers your question there, Kenny. So let's have a look at another one I'm just going through now. So Ian's asked a question that says, being a real family man, how do you feel when you leave them to tackle the various adventures you go on and tackle? That's a great question. So, a lot of the expeditions or adventures that I do, they normally have quite a high element of risk or danger towards them. And I don't say that in a reckless way. In fact, everything I do is managed, risk management to an extreme level. For example, even the boat that I rowed across the ocean, it was even dipped in shark repellent, for example. We look at every risk possible, and everything that we can identify anyway. And yeah, my family worry and my family are concerned, whether it's my daughter or my parents. But for me, when I go to a conflict zone or a hostile environment, I'm only normally going there for a very short period of time. And what we have to remember is the children that I'm trying to help, they live there, they breathe there. So for me, it's not a big ask to dip into a country for 2 or 3 days and try and have a positive impact. I also try to use my adventures to challenge the perceptions. So when I go to places like Iraq or Afghanistan, I want to show the good people of those countries, because normally when we switch on the news in this country, we always see bombs, we see bullets, we see terrorism, we see bad things. But I can promise you, from spending extensive time in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, I've seen more acts of kindness in those countries than I've ever seen in our country. The people are real good people, the majority. You get bad people everywhere. You get them in the UK, you get them in London. You get them all over the world. And what you have to remember is what you see on the media, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, because often there's a political agenda or there is a narrative that suits someone else's agenda. But, if you really want to see the truth about anywhere in the world, you have to go there and see it firsthand. When I was in Afghanistan I was the only British competitor in the Afghanistan Marathon 2018. I've never seen so much kindness in my life as when I visited that country 18 months ago. The people looked after me, they took me in their homes, they let me stay with them, they fed me, they watered me. You would not even see that in the UK. People in the UK don't invite you, the people who've got no homes, to come in their house and stay and look after them and feed them. So, I'm a big champion of getting into other cultures and showing them for what they are and not what necessarily the news portrays. And that's across all different types of communities where stereotypes are attached. But no, good question. Will my daughter become a cadet? We've asked. I hope she will, and I will certainly encourage her to do that. She loves the spirit of adventure. She loves getting outside. She's swum with dolphins. She's been on some incredible trips, and wherever I can take her with me, I always will. So hopefully she'll become a cadet as well. That would be awesome. I would love that. Let's just go through some of these. So people talking about values and standards. So we've got a question here that says, with the current close down of ACF activity, cadets may struggle to stay motivated and maintain interest. What advice can you give them to help keep them motivated and keen? From Captain Long. Well, thank you, Captain Long, for your question. I think again, I'm gonna, maybe I sound like a broken record, but I think the core values they epitomise who we are, they epitomise what we stand for and what we do, and we have to remember those. And as I said before, we are all leaders and we all represent this incredible family. So it's important for us to keep motivated, to maintain other people's motivation. But I think what the team have done here this evening, for example, with Lieutenant Bogue, Sergeant Green, Sergeant Graham, Captain Long, yourself, this is exactly what you need to be doing right now. And what you learn in life as you again get older and mature is that the most precious thing in the world is time. And you can do lots of things with time, but you can never get it. You can never get it again. You can't buy any more time, and that's why it's the ultimate currency of life. And what I would say is you need to use this time productively. There are so many things you can be doing right now to continually professional develop yourself. You can learn languages, you can learn new skills, you can stay healthy, you can stay fit, you can enroll on an online course, you can prepare for your qualifications, your exams when you do eventually go back. Use this period to be productive. If you're not being productive now, you have to have a good look at yourself in the mirror and say, you have to hold yourself accountable to those values and say, am I being the best version of myself? Because just because you're at home or off work or off school is no excuse at all. If anything, it means you've got more time to invest in yourself right now. So use it as an opportunity. The world and what you learn in life is just full of opportunities everywhere, and they're around us all the time. And what you find in a crisis, and this is a crisis, what we're in right now with coronavirus, there are also always opportunities in a crisis. And that all comes down to mindset and how you look at life. A lot of people are looking outside now going, we can't go anywhere, what we're going to do? And they're going downhill quite quickly because they're sitting in their bedrooms, they're sat on their sofa, they've watched Netflix all day, every day, and they've not engaged the brain in any way. And this is what we need to be doing right now. This is why these webinars, these conference calls, these virtual training sessions are so important. And that's one of the great things about this opportunity. I'm learning so much about technology and how it can be used. And actually a great impact on the environment by doing it like this in some respects. We can access people that we haven't spoke to in a long time. So there are lots of positives. And, I always believe that attitude is everything, and no more so than here and now. I'm just going to wrap it up because I've got to go and do a BBC podcast in a minute. So what I'm going to finish on by saying is that, I always give 3 pieces of advice to young people, but it can be applied to adults as well. And I call it Jordan's ABC rule. I'm a simple guy. I'm from Blackpool in Lancashire, and I call it Jordan's ABC rule. And the A is for attitude. For me, attitude is absolutely everything. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you've started in life, where you grew up, or what qualifications you've got, or what experience you've got even. Attitude is absolutely anything. Attitude will take you much further in life than anything else. And I refer to experience, qualifications, upbringing. Attitude is absolutely everything. And if you have a positive attitude, I can promise you that 99.9% of the times in life, people will give you the opportunity, they will give you the chance, and they will give you the time of day. So A is for attitude. Attitude is everything. I would say B is for build relationships. Build relationships everywhere you go. Somebody once said to me that the currency of real networking is generosity. Try to help people, introduce people who can benefit each other. Humans have this terrible habit of only going to people when they want something. Don't be one of those people. Reach out to people. How can I help you? How can I link you in with someone? How can I add value to your life, your education, your business, whatever it might be? So build relationships everywhere you go. More important relationships though is to maintain them. So building relationships is easy. You meet lots of people in life, but maintain them. And to maintain a relationship, you need to invest in it. You need to invest your time, your effort, your mindset, your values. So you will only get out of relationships what you put in. And that doesn't matter if it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your business partner, your troop leader, your detachment commander, whatever it might be. Build relationships, but most importantly, maintain them. So attitude, build relationships, and my final one is C. C is for continuous professional development, and that again links into attitude, because you need to keep an open mind. You need to have a mindset that says, I never want to stop learning. I'm 36 years old, and every day I learn something new. And if I'm not learning something new, I'm asking myself, why am I not learning something new? Am I not applying myself? Am I not speaking to enough people? Try to surround yourself with positive people in your life. If they're negative, if they provide negative energy, get rid of them quickly. They will drag you down. They will suck the morale out of you. Be a positive person, be a positive influencer, add value to people's lives, and be that person that makes everybody feel like a somebody. Really important. That's my ABC rule: attitude, build relationships and maintain them, and continuous professional development. Never stop learning. My name's Jordan Wylie. I'm one of the national ambassadors. Be the difference that makes a difference, and keep inspiring. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.